Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Maui, Hawaii, United States of America. July 25th, 2021. Today's talk, insanity. Insanity, how to maintain sanity in an insane world. This is very much based on the radical psychiatrist from England, R.D. Laing, in his statement, insanity is a sane response to an insane world. This is a slight alteration of that concept. More of what is sanity, how to bring sanity to the forefront of our presence, how to discern insane, corrupt belief systems, thoughts, behaviors, and tune out those particular complexities. 1979, I left America and went to the country of Burma. I ordained in New York City with the late Venerable Sayadaw Mahasi Sayadaw U Sobana, a meditation teacher, a Dhamma teacher. And at that time, feeling it today, many decades hence, there was an urgency. There was a necessity of the soul, so to speak. A poetry of my spirit was speaking to me. And I did not fit into American capitalistic, competitive, war machine, profit and privilege driven culture. I did not buy what America was selling. And I was not in any way adapted to the machinery of that level of capitalistic, competitive, I want to use the word psychic, physical, material, financial shrapnel. It was as if I was on acid, maybe you can relate, or a psychedelic experience, and I was in the wrong place, in the wrong party, with the wrong people, with the wrong music. And America no longer in any way felt appropriate or right. It felt insane. Oddly, ironically, 50, 40 years hence, and with all the mindfulness, with all the psychedelic therapy, with all the ayahuasca, with all the various ways of transformational wisdom that's permeated our cultures in the world, it seems that America's only gotten worse. The lies are more pronounced, the violence more perpetual, the forever war concept that's just bantered around as normal. By the way, thank you for tuning in today. These are tough topics at a tough time, but let's rise up in our ethical, spiritual, intelligent courage together. Those of you who want to play and dance with me in this daily live stream and podcast, How I See It, As I See It, thank you for being in my life. Thank you for participating. And thank you for joining the dialogue. Insanity in a sane world, sanity in an insane world. It was J.K. Krishnamurti, I think, who said, it's no measure of success to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. It's no measure of success to be well-adjusted to a profoundly sick society. War is sick, violence is sick, rape is sick, assassinations are sick, lying is sick, deceit is sick, propaganda is sick, misinformation is sick, distortions are sick, denigration and racism and xenophobia and totalitarianism and dictatorship and profit over people, privilege over peace. These are sick, invenerating states of mind in the human condition played out on our landscape called planet Earth today in July 2021. It's no measure of success to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Insanity is a sane response to an insane world. What is sanity? Let's dive into this. 40 some years ago, I left America. I left in classical condition of upset. I've said about it so many times, but I left with a sense of incredible urgency. I could not live in America. I could not live in Los Angeles. I could no longer survive. I was using substances, alcohol, cocaine, Percodan, an early stage morphine, an incredibly tenacious, addictive substance to not numb, but to make life tolerable. I'm proud of the things that I've done to survive. It's no measure of success to be adjusted to a profoundly sick society. No wonder we're dealing with the things that we're dealing with the amount of lies and misinformation, the pharmaceutical cartels, the war cartels, the tobacco cartels, the lying cartels, the normalization of violence and rape and assassination, and the denigration of democracies around the world. In our beloved Myanmar right now, while the world stands and watches and lets a nation bleed. It's unthinkable that that's normal. That is allowed in the United Nations Security Council, 15 members, allowing a country to undergo a democratic genocide, a genocide of their democracy, the incarceration of civilian leaders, freely and fairly elected in a democracy. We're allowing that. That's called insanity. Okay. I went to Burma. I shifted context into a monastic environment. There, I decathexed from a lot of complexities, from substance use to alcohol use to being out of control with this and that. I don't want to denigrate my life, but I learned an ancient technique called satipatthana, vipassana, bhavana. In simple form, the power of awareness, to be present with what you feel and try to have the courage, Alan, to simply feel it as it is without filling in the blank with Percodan or cocaine or alcohol or nicotine or cigarettes or lies or judgments or projection or blame, all the ways in which we adjust to a profoundly sick society. The mere accumulation of wealth, while our friends and families often struggle, is a sick psychological behavior that has been radically normalized. In a monastery, you understand and you feel the benevolence of living so close to your heart and to the earth. Basically, people are giving to you things that they work hard to create so that you can simply abide in the sanctity of a mindful present time presence and feel the nature of your mind unadulterated by the need to accumulate or go to war or to fight or to hoard or to give power to greed or to fear. You simply get to be naked. The naked sanity of feeling. The naked sanity of courageous, mindful feeling of the phenomena arising within one's own mind and becoming more alert to understand it, to feel it, to know it. So the first basis of sanity that I can see is the courage simply to feel and to call off the pursuit of accumulation or the fear-based need to run from the event. Stop. Abide. Feel. Meditation can never be elevated enough in its beauty. At least satipatthana, vipassana, bhavana. The power of mindful presence. I think at the various ways in which we're dealing with the world as it is today. It's so cliched almost to talk about privilege and profit and the end of totalitarianism and the war on democracy, but ever could we ever get enough insight into the need right now to understand roles of collusion and complicity that allow for the normalization of insanity? Insanity is simply a word to describe violence. Insanity is simply a word to describe hoarding and greed and domination and genocide and ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity. We know you, Xi Jinping of China. We know you people in the world who do these things in the name of your ideology. That's insanity. But here we are, the rest of us. What are we to do? You know, I wrote a book over the last year. Some of you have read it. Extinction X-rated. And it was my literary, cognitive, spoken word, cinematic attempt. If I had an opportunity to speak to the world, and I love literature for that, and I love live streaming for that in the podcast. If I had an opportunity to speak to the world, speaking to myself, what would I say in the last hour of my life? And this book is really a statement to that. And I tried as best as I possibly could to obliterate through language, not through the rifle or the gun or the drone or the nuclear war or the lie or the propaganda, but simply through the power of the written word, the sonic, vibrational, written, spoken, cinematic, pregnant word with what I felt to be radical compassion, radical loving kindness, my Sermon on the Mount, you know, parting the Red Sea of evil, you know, whatever you want to do to use the power of your conscience. What would you say to the world if you're wired for 24, 6, 7, 30, 60 minutes? And that was the book. And part of it was like, how do you decode? How do you decode evil? Okay, take it on, Alan. How do you decode the predilection for profit and privilege and domination and xenophobia and dictatorship? If you had a literary mandala that you're created, your personal war on the insult of God to humanity and to the cosmos, the insult of evil. And evil is an insult. And we're going to fight back with everything that we have without using the gun, you know, without losing our sanity, our moral compass, our holiness, if you will, but to use the power of the heart, the power of conscience, the power of dignity, the power of an ethical, principled presence, simple things that we could have learned, should have learned in high school with our parents and our friends, and yet here we are today, struggling for survival as a species on a planet, the least of which is catastrophic climate collapse. Then we have the collapse of integrity, the collapse of truth, and now everyone in the world wants something to do with your left or your right arm for inoculations and vaccines and boosters, and we have no more clarity. Our National Institute of Health has become a running dog for the pharmaceutical cartels. They have profit running through their veins, patents with vaccines. Everyone is on the take. I wish I was more fluent in the Bible and the teachings of Jesus, who I adore. That little money changers scene, I remember seeing it in Franco Zeffirelli's movie, Jesus of Nazareth. I've watched that thing 10 times, all 6 parts of it. Going into that arena where people are obsessed with the pornography of money, money, money. Everyone should take some time away and live in a refugee camp. Everyone in the world, especially leaders, priests and presidents, everyone who's in positions of power should take off their suits and their dresses and don the ordinary garb of the displaced and the traumatized in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Libya, in Yemen. Be a starving boy or girl for a minute rather than the stock options in the various weapons industries and the pharmaceutical industries and all the big tech titans that build the firewalls around our own mind and integrity. We should strip ourselves from the pretense of privilege, right? And find ourselves in the footsteps of the saints who we are willing to dispose of through money, the killing of life for profit. I wish I had the capacity to take those boys and girls who are starving to death right now on the deserts and the landscapes of horror in Yemen, in Syria. I read about the news as America withdraws from Afghanistan and the Taliban continues to take over the country, and the assassination and the decapitation of men and women who served for the American military machine. Decapitation within minutes after withdrawal. 20 years of horror for what? Money, money, and stupidity. You can hardly even read an article about it anywhere. All we hear about are vaccinations and the need for those damn things in our body to survive the madness to keep making more and more money for the machine of insanity. How to stay sane in this machinery of insanity. I can't run to Burma anymore. How many times I've told friends and people in my life, all I yearn for is a sacred monastic space, a home to create 3, 4, 5, and 10 walls where I can just stop and chill. That's my ideal. I want to bring out my books and my notes. I want to study and read. I want to dance. I want to meditate. I want to be silent. I want to fast. I want to write songs and play hymns and watch movies and to continue to live stream, do my TV talk show. I want to have guests. I want to have Robert Kennedy on. I want to talk to Dr. Anthony Fauci. If they come on, fine. If they don't, fine. I want to step out. I want to use my voice. I refuse to be silenced. Silence is complicity with insanity right now. It's complicity with totalitarianism. We need to bring our leadership into the wisdom of humility. They need to see the ramifications and implications of their blindness and their pride and their arrogance and their diabolical need to continue to perpetuate lies and profit and money and privilege. We need to bring in Yemen and Syria and Afghanistan, all these places around the world where our ordinance and our money and our bombs and our insanity and our toxicity and our evil and our pretense for democracy. It's a war on democracy right now. And we are the victims of that? No, we're the warriors of freedom. Don't be a victim of stage fright, I tell myself. Just as it is to use your voice, we have to overcome the fright of freedom, like stage fright. Many people are phobic of freedom because they're so used to the conformity of the four walls of their denial, and they live in the beautiful cathedral of orthodoxy, and it blocks out the universe to see the heavens within and outside. We need to unshackle. This is the beauty of meditation, the beauty of the psychedelic, the beauty of psychotherapy, the beauty of eroticism and love and tantrification. Everyone wants love. It's the relaxation of boundary. We're taking off our clothes, our violence. We're shedding the insanity of greed. There's no easy answer here, but we must fight. In my book, I was remembering, maybe you've seen the movie. Guy would recommend that you take a look at it. I'm not sure who directed it, but Peter Sellers was in it, Ringo Starr, way, way back. I think it's called The Magic Christian. A genius movie, deep, dark, satirical, starts off slow, and it really deals with the innate faculties within the genome of consciousness. I don't like to vilify people. The faculties, the formations of greed, anger, and delusion, and pretense, and domination, and violence, probably within every life form there is. And there are those who live a spiritual life, a meditative life, who challenge those accumulations within the God molecule of totality and refuse to participate in those formations. Those are very sane people. But in this movie, The Magic Christian, I think it's towards the end, and it really deals with what men and women are willing to do to compromise their conscience, their family, their principles, their values for loot. I've got a new film coming up. I'm writing it right now. I'm writing a show. It's going to be a one-person show. It's called Dead Man Walking, Freedom Never Dies. It has very little to do with my aneurysm. Dead man, dead woman, dead planet, freedom never dies, you know. And I'm going to use everything that I did in an Extinction X-rated times 1,000. This is I use this word politely, my crown jewel before I die. What will I say and do, creating images and energies to uplift the status of life, the most positive expression of freedom? Well, in The Magic Christian, Peter Sellers and Ringo Starr are mocking and creatively shaming in their radical spiritual, social, psychological activism. He has unlimited money, Mr. Sellers. And so what do? They're in downtown New York or downtown London, and you see them building a big open vat. And you see a truck coming in, and the truck is now emptying its contents of liquefied feces, liquefied animal entrails and organs and blood. I mean, really disgusting liquid. It's filling the vat up. Okay? Downtown New York, downtown, right outside the White House, downtown Washington, downtown London, downtown Paris, downtown in our own homes, okay? Dark, satirical, comedic sanity in an insane world. And they write on it, you see Ringo Starr painting on it, free loot, free money. And of course, it attracts the living hell out of everyone. Free money? Okay. So you could imagine right now, if this was a modern day circumstance, and that big vat was, say, right outside the White House in Washington, D.C., and it said, free money. And you see all the big honchos in the Senate and the Congress and all the big corporations, even those who are so rich, it's never enough. Even the Gates and the Bezos and the Musks are there. Free money, free crypto, free privilege, free profit. All you want, it's yours. And that's seduction. That's seduction to buy in early on Moderna. That's seduction to have gotten in early on Apple and Amazon and Google. That's seduction to get in the war machine. That's seduction. That's seduction. That cocaine of money inside of all of us, right? That cocaine of privilege and profit. Wow, the weapons machinery, the pharmaceutical industry, the tobacco company, the plastics industry, all the consumerization of the entire planet, killing itself in the name of this big vat, free money to kill yourselves, guys. Sanity in an insane world, insanity in an insane world. And you see these men in this movie, this was done decades ago, because it stinks so badly. Nonetheless, you see them climbing up on top, and there is this vat of liquefied, despicable entrails and feces and urine and blood. And you see these prominent men, symbolic of the financial institutes, the political institutes, the university institutes, and you're going like, oh my God, this is like free money. All I got to do is pick it out of the shit. And you see them slowly, very timid and cautious, kneeling down and holding their nose and picking it out. But eventually, as more and more people crowd around the vat, they lose all pretense and they begin to step into the vat. And slowly the scene ends with them dunking their entire bodies in liquefied feces, entrails, blood, and organs, all for free money. And they fail to see that they sully and stink their entirety with shit for profit. Nonviolent, creative, spiritual activism, so overlooked. And that's what we need to do today as activists, as spiritual people, as yogis, as meditators, as trans-religious world dharma activists. People breaking the orthodoxy of their psychology, their tradition, getting over their need to think that they can accumulate more and more. You're not safe wherever you are. The manufacturing, the electrification, the digital connectivity today, where it goes down here, it's going to go down there. We are so alive and baked in with what the doomsday clock in Chicago, the group of scientists and leaders and Nobel laureates who have calibrated our future based upon all the various compromising things from radiation to nuclear plants and the potential for terrorism and war. The doomsday clock was moved up to simply 60 seconds before midnight, before all life on the planet, outside of the centipedes and the spiders and the roaches and the rats, will die. All based on all of us being unaware of how we throw ourselves in the vat of shit based upon unrecognized greed and delusion inside of our own minds. Welcome. It's no measure of success to be well adjusted to dunking your body into a vat of shit and call it a life. How can we spread this message? Let me come to a close here. I wish I had the answers. I do know using our voice right now is not only important, but essential. Whatever the way in which you want to use your pen, your voice, your platform, your influence, your social media, your friendships. You know, it was almost 26 centuries ago as of yesterday, the Buddha was said to have given his first talk. And he chose to give it to his 5 previously closest friends, whom he left because he felt that they were steeped in a form of practice that wasn't really efficacious to the overcoming of dunking oneself unknowingly in the vat of mediocrity, in the normalization of stench, insanity, preoccupation with greed, ignorance, and evil, in the name of even spiritual people, holy people, can do things to sanction violence. Look at the Catholic Church. Look at the misuse and abuse of religion worldwide in the name of, we dunk ourselves in the vat and call it perfume. The Buddha walked. At the end of this 6-year period, it said he realized the truer nature of the human psyche and overcame through the tenacity of his own mindful intelligence the accumulations in the substratum of lobha, dosa, moha. They call this arhantship, in his case Buddhahood, the absolute transformation of greed, anger, and delusion into the radiance of wisdom and freedom. It's a beautiful concept, the opposite of dunking ourselves in the vat of insanity. And he thought to himself, according to the text, who could hear this message? And he went to see those 5 friends whom he left, and they rejected him. And he looked at them and said, I have something I've discovered. And they said, no, we don't want your discovery. The Buddha at that time, 35 years old, was undoubtedly a Dharma rebel, a true Dhamma maverick. He upset the orthodoxy of northern India, if you look carefully at the commentaries in the literature. He refused to participate in the machinery of profit and money. He walked. There's something analogous in that for me, in this reinvention of the first discourse today. What would you say, Alan? Don't just recite the teachings of the Buddha. What do you feel is true for you in your own existence? Well, a couple of things before I end. Don't buy what they're selling. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Don't buy it. Make a list of the things that they're selling and make a firm boundary, point 2, in the cognitive, psychological, existential sand of your life, the water of your heart, the spirit of our beings. Draw a line there called a boundary, a sonic, psychological intensity of moral courage. A boundary is just simply a moral courage that has a wave of power in it in your own heart. It's not a boundary like a wall. Reinvent these words to make them something meaningful to us. A boundary is, I have principles. I am valued. I have dignity. I live in conscience and I refuse to participate in what you are trying to do, sell, or convince me that is true and right. I don't have stage fright for freedom. You do. You still jump in the vat of mediocrity. You still jump in the vat of sullying your own entirety for the sake of privilege and profit. And society today has normalized that by and large. Yes, there are radical truth seekers, flamethrowers of integrity. Be one of them. Don't buy what they're selling. This is how I talk to myself. It has nothing to do with you. Don't buy what they're selling. Make a list of the things that they want to sell you and refuse to buy it. Look where it's coming from. Look at the conditions for it. Look at the implications of it. Sell everything that you own. Give it away, throw it away, trash it, bury it, dissolve it, put it into the compost of insanity that you feel denigrates yourself, denigrates society, and denigrates the future of life on our precious, one and only precious home called planet Earth. How to overcome complicity with that vat of shit. Only you know the secrets of your soul. Draw a boundary within friendships, within family circles, within social tribes. Zero tolerance. Another thing to maintain sanity in an insane world. Don't buy what they're selling. Boundaries as sonic vibrational frequencies of integrity in dynamic elevation and evolution. A boundary builds in stealth to become wisdom, to the point where one could possibly become impervious, except that you see it with eyes wide open. Those who were around that vat created by Mr. Sellers and Mr. Starr, they didn't buy it. They didn't go into that vat and live in the collusion of compromise and cultural conformity to profit and privilege. These are the ones who are anointed on the altar of evil. And we must participate, we must bond, we must hold hands, we must stand in solidarity with the power of our integrity. Let me come to the end today, a beginning. Dream. Create meadows, hymns, sonnets, suttas, poems, films, books that elevate the status of love, mutuality, unity, harmony, kindness, and the radiance of freedom. If there's ever a wish I want on this planet, is that violence instantly ceases from the genome of our collective, and it's replaced with harmony, coexistence, unity, and the sacred art of creative existential numismatic dance. The play of high frequency sacred forms that release us into new dimensions of cognitive, theatrical, creative forms of interactive Ubuntu eroticism, sapio, existential, sexual, creative births of formations of love and peace. The sacred garden. Why are we always living in, pointing out the insanity, right? So among us, those few of us out there, I don't hold myself as someone special, hard-earned determination. Be willing to be disciplined and overcome the preoccupations of what's familiar to you. Learn new forms of thought, emotion, psychological, art, health, dynamic liberty in unthinkable action. And as Aung San Suu Kyi said, as I come to the end, use your liberty to help the freedom of others. Find release and healing and elevation and democracy. We are at war. We are at war. They want us all to jump into the vat of war, of profit, of privilege, of denigration, of xenophobia. The opposite of democracy is totalitarianism. It's a vat of lies, a vat of stench, a vat of conformity, 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 conformity. So repetitive is conformity. Study the formations of conformity, conformity, conformity. Understand those sonic patterns of conformity. Do as I say, not as you think. Do as I say, not as you think. Do as I say. Roll up your sleeve and put this in your arm. How true that vaccination is or isn't is radically in debate. Radically in debate. It's the conformity to you telling us what to do that's the issue. That's Reichian totalitarianism conformity. We refuse to participate in your need to be an authoritarian dictator in a democracy. Sorry. Freedom is freedom. We don't have freedom fright. You have the fright of freedom. And so may I encourage you to encourage me, to encourage our friends. Let's get bold. Let's get rad. Let's get the music and the party started. I'm writing a new thing called Fight. That is my new mantra. It's no tragedy. It's not about healing. I could give a shit on whether or not ultimately my aneurysm is cured or not. Guess what? I think it's cured. I'm going to get into that soon. But it's about the existential, spiritual, psychological, emotional, human, planetary, ecological fight for sanity. Remember, as Mr. Krishnamurti made clear, ever more important today than ever, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And it is sick. What's sick about it? Collusion with violence is jumping into the vat of shit. It's sick. War is sick. Assassination of freedom-loving, non-violent revolutionaries in Burma is sick. Torture is insane. Denigration is insane. Apartheid, discrimination, racism is violence. It's insane. Let us refuse to normalize these things as if our very integrity, our conscience, we're feeling these states of mind and emotions as if they were what? Any of you ever had cholera or malaria or dengue fever or amoebic dysentery, and you feel this overwhelming sense of nausea and an unthinkable discomfort in your biological being? We must evolve rapidly, right, to feel the same level of discomfort with greed, anger, and delusion and collusion with war, whatever you want to call it. The perversity of profit over. Where is that place of generosity, giving back? Why are these things so foreign to the planet? Right now, with democracy at war, the war on democracy, it's never been clear. The fight is on, and I'm encouraging everyone to encourage me, to encourage your friends. Let's join solidarity with the freedom fighters in Burma. Let's make it a global revolution of the spirit. Let's not pretend to be revolutionaries. Let's rise out of our particular respective suburbs. Let's refuse to participate in Mr. Ringo Starr and Peter Sellers' vat. And let's mock them and shame them and creatively induce satirical comedy that obliterates the structures on this planet of the normalization of greed, anger, and delusion found in violence, war, rape, genocide, domination, and desecration, and sadly, in this mass extinction by the blindness of consumerism and the addiction, the conformity addiction to collusion and the normalization of freedom and the way in which we know it, which is denigrating other countries and people on the planet. We're in the shit if we're not aware of it. Let's get out and let's have a party. Rise up in the beauty of creating hymns and music and songs. Where are you, artists in the world? Where are you, filmmakers? Let's rise up and create unthinkable art, unthinkable photography, unthinkable poetry. In our communications, let's not be in collusion with ordinary. Let's take it higher. Stop doing drugs to improve the refinement of your psychological, emotional being. Stop overcoming trauma. Fight is on. Take the substances to the leaders who need it. Let's address the enemy. So from my heart to yours, thank you for allowing me, supporting me in a little bit of a rant scream today. It's Sunday, I'm feeling it, and the fight is on. From my heart to yours, thank you.